Hey, do you know what time it is? That's right. It's time for Coach Lindy's podcast. The podcast to get you moving. Hi, I'm Lindy Hutchinson, a certified life mastery consultant with the Brave Thinking Institute. As a life coach, I help others transform their life as I have mine. It's not easy, but it is possible, and it most certainly is worth it. Each week, I'll share insights that inform, inspire, and ignite in you your desire to create a life that you love. So let's find out what's going on this week. So, welcome to the podcast. It is Coach Lindy, and as always, it is my privilege to be with you this week. I was outside, so excuse me for being a little disheveled. We are going to spotlight one of my favorite people, Tony Robbins. He is our profile in positivity this week. Tony Robbins, if you aren't familiar with him, not to offend you, but you've probably been living in under a rock somewhere. He started an amazing journey at a young age, and his impact on the world has been phenomenal. And then towering at 6'7", and then having a booming voice, he's really a force of nature. And a few tidbits about Tony is he started his life in Southern California. He was born in 1960. He was raised in what he describes a very chaotic and abusive household. There was alcoholism, and it was very turbulent, and he was the eldest. And he had, let me see if it says how many kids there were. There were 4 or 5 kids, and so he, like so many times, when there's a parent, but that parent really isn't able to do the job, then oftentimes the eldest child ends up being a surrogate parent. So that's what he did. He was born and raised in Glendora, California, and he grew up in North Hollywood. His mother was an alcoholic, and he used to work to protect his younger siblings. He discovered his talent for public speaking and began to read motivational books. Let me find, there's a little more here. It says that he grew up on what he called the wrong side of the tracks. And by the time he was a junior in high school, he became fixated on the question about what separated the haves and the have-nots, which is a question I think a lot of us ponder. Well, at 17, he was working as a custodian after school, and he helped people move on the weekends to make money to help support his family. On one of those moves, he had taken a break when he asked the landlord on the site, who was also a family friend, he says, "My dad said that you used to be such a loser. How come you're so successful now?" And of course, younger people can get away with saying something that blunt. But it was like, your dad said what? So anyway, the gentleman that they apparently were renting from, who was also a family friend, said that he turned his life around, the landlord, by going to a Jim Rohn seminar. He said that the man takes everything that he's learned in 20, 30 years of his life, and he pours it into 4 hours. So Tony asked this landlord if he could somehow get him in to see Jim Rohn for free. And he said no, because he really wouldn't fully appreciate it. And the seminar was $35, but that was like 1970 something. I didn't look it up, but we know it's a lot more now because of inflation. So he said that he made this big decision to spend a week's pay to go to the event. And he said he got there and he was mesmerized and his life was forever changed. He said that Jim Rohn was a marketer who was nudged into pursuing his penchant for public speaking full-time in his 30s. He was inspired by entrepreneur John Earl Schoaf. I'm probably saying that wrong. But he learned leadership philosophy and started speaking series on that topic. So with the American self-improvement period taken off, and then people were rediscovering writers like Napoleon Hill, who we've talked about, Think and Grow Rich, and Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. They're timeless classics in personal development because they apply to people and people never change. So Rohn used to say that true happiness is not contained in what you get. Happiness is gained by what you become. And we know that Mary Morrissey says something very similar, and that's because it's true. So when Tony Robbins met Jim Rohn, he had been giving these personal development speeches to executives and employees at Stanford Oil. Robbins was completely captivated. If you've ever listened to Jim Rohn passed away a few years ago. You can find a lot of Jim Rohn on YouTube. My favorite place of finding free, amazing content, Jim Rohn, motivational speaker on YouTube. And of course, he's got tons of books, so you can help yourself to his books too. It says that Robbins started to work for Jim Rohn, and before he knew it, he was just completely, as his protege, completely vested, doing really well. And of course, Tony Robbins just took off, and by the time he was 26, he was a multimillionaire with a best-selling book. And today, he is a premier performance coach. He sells out stadiums, and one of the things that I like about Tony Robbins is that he spends a lot of time and a lot of money helping other people who are not as fortunate or as advanced. So he's written many best-selling books. He hangs out with the rich and famous. He is an amazing man, and he's gotten all kinds of awards and grants, and many very successful people turn to him when they need help. Many sports figures rely on him for coaching, and there's nothing like that person who has been at the bottom. Well, they say the good thing about hitting the bottom is that there's nowhere to go but up, right? So Tony Robbins, amazing. If you have not read his books, if you're not that familiar, please familiarize yourself. If you are familiar and you do like him, then, watch, dig out his books and tapes again. He changed my life in the 90s, the 1990s. I was in an abusive marriage, and I was in a religion that no longer fit me. And it was hard because my parents, who were wonderful people, were in the faith. But I was not emotionally, mentally there anymore. And there was a lot of inconsistencies. So I wasn't sure what to do. And mostly with my marriage, which was very negative, I ended up going to the thrift store where I used to collect my books. And you get tapes and stuff for a fraction of the cost. And they had something called cassette tapes. Everyone remembers the little cassette tapes. And they had a set of cassette tapes of Tony Robbins, one of his books. And I bought it. It was just a few dollars, a few pennies on the dollar. And I listened. I ruined some of the tapes because I listened to them so much. But he said something that really changed my life, and it made me realize that I had to do something about my life, not just waiting for someone to help me. Is that he says, whatever is going on in your life that you don't like, that you feel needs to change. He says, if you do nothing, whether it's a job, whether it's your personal physicality, whether it's a relationship, whatever it is, if you do nothing, where will you be in 5 years? Okay. Where will you be in 10 years? Okay. Well, I stayed in my abusive marriage for 18 and a half years, and I was probably a good 16 years at that point into it, and I started thinking, 16 years, I've lost those years, and I left at 18 and a half, but I realized, how long are you going to do this? So I made a big change, and it wasn't easy, but it was certainly worth it. So Tony Robbins will always have a special place in my heart. And if you're not familiar, or you kind of remember, but you kind of don't, Tony Robbins is certainly worth another look. Do a review, watch him on YouTube, amazing. And he has books out there that you can listen to. As you know, I like to do that on YouTube. So, Tony Robbins today, and our power word for the week is tall, because he's 6'7". And I say stand tall with Tony Robbins, and is an amazing person. So our Hey That's Funny, from our Hey That's Funny file, pardon me. Why aren't dogs good dancers? Ready? Because they have 2 left feet. Okay. All right. Wasn't that great? But yeah, that's how it goes sometimes. So my friends, thank you for joining me this week. And remember to keep building a life that you love, because you are worth it. Take care of yourself until I see you again next week. Bye-bye. Hey, thanks for joining me this week. I look forward to being with you every week. And if you'd like to get in touch with me, please email me at coachlindy@lindyhutchinson.com. My name is spelled Lyndi, so it's Coach Lindy, Lyndi, at Lindy Hutchinson, LYNDIHUTCHINSON.com. I value what your input is, and I'm always open for suggestions and ideas. If you will like and or subscribe to this podcast, that would be wonderful. I appreciate it. And I enjoy anything that you might want to send in, or if you would like some more information about coaching, send me an email and I will get back with you, and we'll talk about how you can create your best life. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.